this moment, there is peace, there is peace in the stillness of this moment. There is peace, there is peace, and I rest, and I trust, and I breathe, and I know in the stillness of this moment there is peace. In the stillness of this moment there is light, there is light. In the stillness of this moment there is light, there is light, and I rest, and I trust, and I breathe, and I know in the stillness of this moment there is light, there is peace, there is light, there is. And I invite you to gently breathe in that stillness, and that peace, and that light. And if you've not done so already, I invite you to gently close your eyes. Let your feet feel supported. Relax into your chair or your seat. Know that this is the perfect place for you to be. Right here, right now, having this experience. Know that you may choose to follow my words, or you may choose to go elsewhere. Wherever you go will be perfect. You know, our imaginations are one of our most precious gifts from Godness. They allow us to create our life like an artist creates a picture. We can shape and color our lives with our imagination. We know how to imagine. We've been doing it since we were small children. So as an experiment, we can imagine our last third of summer and autumn of 2022. It doesn't matter what has already transpired or what we have already planned. We can add any imaginings that make our spirit soar and our lips smile. So I invite you to take a moment and give yourself permission to perhaps think outside the box, beyond the easily doable. To stretch perhaps a little into the realm of seemingly impossible or extremely unlikely. Just give yourself room to imagine what you might love to do or experience or become the rest of this summer and fall. What would you love to see yourself doing? Perhaps it's playing at some activity, getting out in nature, perhaps learning a new skill or learning to play an instrument, or getting out in the garden. Perhaps it's relaxation, reflection, and healing. Whatever it is, see yourself in your mind's eye experiencing that right now. Is there some place you'd like to go or visit? See yourself there. And as you create, what kinds of feelings do you want to experience? Perhaps laughter, fun, enthusiasm, or that deep peace and resting. Imagine you experiencing those feelings right now. And who would you like to spend time with? Anytime we like, we can take a breath and use our imagination to picture what we'd like to achieve, experience, or become. I am the artist of my life, and I shape my tomorrow with my imagination today. My mind pictures health, and my body reflects that picture. I listen to my intuition, and I see good ideas that come to me through meaningful coincidences, unsubtle signs, dreams. And I follow through on my internal intuitive proddings. For I am creating my experience by the power of my imagination, because I am the artist of my life. I shape and color my life. I release undesirable mental images, and I hold images of beauty, joy, peace, and harmony. I am inspired by my dreams and intuitive promptings. I know that what I conceive and believe I will achieve. And I am in the flow of images and thoughts that expand my life. I willingly and enthusiastically stretch and imagine new possibilities. I tune into good ideas, and I follow through on my internal promptings. I mentally rehearse skills I want to develop, and I see myself successfully doing them. I visualize peace, love, cooperation, and healing for all peoples of the world, while I keep my eyes single and fill my life and world and me with healing light. I visualize peace, love, cooperation, and healing for all peoples. And so it is. So I just invite you to take a few more gentle breaths. Feel that life energy flowing through you, all the way out to your fingers and your toes. And when you're ready, gently open your eyes, feeling alert, yet relaxed, energized, yet at peace.
There's a place that I know where the sycamore grow and daffodils have their fun, where the cares of the day seem to slowly fade away in the glow of the evening sun. Peace when the day is done. If I go there real late, if I search deep inside, let my conscience be my guide. The answers are sure to come. Don't have to worry none. When you find peace of mind, leave your worries behind. Don't say it can't be done. With a new point of view, life's true meanings come to you, and the freedom you seek can be won. Peace is for everyone. Peace is for everyone. Peace is for everyone.
Oh, Claire, that was beautiful. I just kind of like to sit back and just kind of relax a little bit, but forget it. We're not going to do that. I have the Psalm of Summer. Now it came to pass that spring turned to summer again. God's people raised their voices and said, "Recreation is my shepherd, I shall not stay at home. He maketh me to lie down in a sleeping bag. He leadeth me down the interstate each weekend. He restoreth my suntan. He leadeth me to state parks for comfort's sake. Even though I stray on the Lord's day, I fear no reprimand, for thou art with me. My rod and reel, they comfort me. I anointeth my skin with oil, my gas tank runneth over. Surely my trailer shall follow me all the weekends this summer, and I shall return to the house of the Lord this fall." But then again, it's hunting season, and that's another song. Okay. It's summer. Things are heating up, are they not? And I mean that literally. It's been kind of hot, and figuratively. So I was kind of thinking about that when I was thinking of what to talk about. And I thought, when it gets hot, I love watermelon. Do you? And the way I eat watermelon, it works really well, because besides cooling me off on the inside, it kind of gets all over me and cools me off everywhere, because it's, I'm not that neat a watermelon eater. Plus, if you get the old-fashioned kind, then you can spit seeds afterwards. Oh, it's so fun. So I was thinking about that, and I thought of Wally Amos, famous Amos. Remember the cookies? Okay. Well, he wrote a wonderful little book, and it's called Watermelon Magic, Seeds of Wisdom, Slices of Life. And as I talk about it, and you'll see why I think this is a good fit for us. And so he had a watermelon credo, and he used the letters within watermelon. So for example, W, whatever you believe creates your reality. Does he not sound like a New Thought guy? I mean, that's what we talk about every week, isn't it? That what we think about, if you believe life is great, your life is pretty great. If you believe life is pretty not so great, you might be experiencing that. So it reminds us, what are we thinking about? What are the beliefs that we are holding on to? Because if you believe that life is going to hell in a handbasket, that's not a really good belief you want to hang on to. So, and I thought of a story, and this was about a young, well, actually, it was a middle-aged man who had a hot dog stand. And he sold hot dogs on the side of the road. And he was kind of hard of hearing, so he didn't have a radio. He had trouble with his eyes, so he really didn't read the newspaper and didn't watch TV. But he was happy selling hot dogs, and he had great hot dogs, and he was very proud of that. In fact, he rented the billboard just ahead of his hot dog sign and put up there, greatest hot dogs ahead. He was very proud of that. And he stood on the side of the road and he cried, "Hey, come have the greatest hot dog you've ever had." And people came and they bought him. And his business increased. He had to order more meat and more buns, and he was having a great time. He even bought a bigger stove to cook them on. Then one day his son came home from college, and his well-meaning son said, "Dad, haven't you heard the news about the recession? The economy is really bad. The unemployment is terrible. The energy situation is worse." So the hot dog man thought about that. He said, "Well, my son's going to college. He must know. He reads newspapers and listens to everything. He ought to know." So the father cut back on his meat and bun order. He even stopped renting the billboard that was ahead of his, where he sold. And he no longer, stood by the road and bothered to yell and wave at all the customers. And sure enough, his hot dog sales fell. And he said, "You're right, son. We certainly are in the middle of a bad recession." It's kind of what we believe, isn't it? And be cautious of that. So, I think annually we need to take a belief inventory. You can do it more often, perhaps, but at least annually, just check out what you're believing. Now, that's kind of a big thing. It's like, where do I start? Well, kind of the world tells you where you can start, because it's like, what is happening in your immediate world? And that's a clue. Non-judgment, this is not where we play metaphysical malpractice, because we're human beings, stuff happens. But if there's things going on in our life, we might want to look at and say, what is my belief about my lumbago? What is my belief about my finances? What is my belief about my relationships? Whatever that might be. And just look at that and see if that's a belief we really want to see replicated going forward. And if it's not, we can change it. That's the good news. So that's the W. Whatever you believe creates your life. A, attitude. We know that too. We're famous here. We have an attitude of gratitude, do we not? Charles Fillmore said, "Pronounce every experience good and of God, and that mental attitude you will call forth only the good. What seems error will disappear, and only the good will remain." This is the law. No one can break it. I love that law. It's one of my favorite laws. I like it. So, claim it to be good. And so when I was thinking about that, I thought of one story about the three-haired woman. This was a lovely lady. She woke up one morning and she realized she only had 3 hairs on her head. It's kind of frightening for me personally, but I understand the theory behind this. And she said, "Oh, well, today I'll braid my hair." And so she did, and she had a fabulous day. And she woke up the next day and she only had 2 hairs on her head. I said, "Well, today I'm going to part my hair down the middle." And so she did, and she had a fabulous day. Woke up the next day, 1 hair on her head. "Well, today I'll wear my hair in a ponytail." And so she did, and she had a lovely day. Woke up the next day, no hair. And she said, "Yay, today I don't even have to fix my hair. I'm going to have to," and so she didn't have to do that, and she had the best day ever. Now, this is the attitude that I would like to have every day without having to lose my hair, But it's like that kind of attitude that takes what is and goes with it. I think that's wonderful. So my suggestion, or just one of the, because I love spiritual practices. I have hundreds of them. I rotate them out daily, hourly, whatever. But one fun one is at night, visualize what you want to experience the next day that's going to bring you joy. And if you can't think of anything, if you're at kind of a place in your life where it's like, or you're really tired, and it's like, I can't think of a thing, then just affirm to yourself that something amazing happens to me tomorrow. Something amazing. Why would we not want that? And that's all that it takes, that little practice. And our attitude then wakes up with expectancy, does it not? And my attitude is, where is it? What is it? Ooh, I'm looking for it. And we know what we look for, we find. All of these little cliches and these sayings all come together because they're true. And when we live by them and we get those so into our psyche, it helps us create a life that we really want. T was like water, T. And T, he says, together everyone achieves more. That makes sense, doesn't it? It says right in Ecclesiastes, 2 are better than 1, because you have good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls down and has no one to help them up. cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. We're here to be together. And when we're not together and supporting each other, then we start to get into lack thinking and think of things as being limited. Greed is a solo experience, because prosperity is what we experience when we help each other, isn't it? And you can't help but do that. When you help somebody else and help them, you become more prosperous yourself. We know that. I was lucky. I learned this pretty young. When I was in college, I had an internship. I was up in Duluth, UMD, and I had an internship at the police department. I was in corrections and law enforcement was my focus, and at the Arrowhead Juvenile Center. And so I met a young man who was pretty notorious in town because he, about 2 weeks earlier, had been part of a duo of not thinking young men who decided, wouldn't it be fun? Look at this newspaper truck here on the road with no driver in it. Let's take it for a ride. And so they took the Sunday newspaper truck in Duluth and went up on Skyline Drive and threw everybody's Sunday newspapers off Skyline Drive. This was pretty serious business. This was back in the day when newspapers were a really big thing. And everybody was up in arms. You would think, that they had done an armed robbery. Granted, it was not bright. I get that. But anyway, so this young man eventually came to the juvenile center where I got to work with him. And my job was to check, to spend time with him and then recommend when he goes to juvenile court what should happen to him. And as I would talk to the police, they said things like, well, apple doesn't fall far from the tree. You remember his dad? Up to no good. And so it was like I could see that a lot of the people had in their mind that this young man was kind of doomed almost because of history of the family coming up. And I thought, well, this is not good. This kid, I think he was like 14. And the very likelihood would be he was going to go either to Red Wing or Lino Lakes, which were the juvenile facilities at that time. So I don't know I don't know. It was perhaps inspiration that I didn't even catch on to at the time. I decided to go to meet the editor of the newspaper in Duluth and ask him because I thought if he could give the young kid a job at being a paper boy, maybe that would prevent it from having to go to Red Wing. So the editor met with me, and I sat down and talked with him, and I gave him my spiel about this kid's not lost yet. He's only 14. I think if you gave him a job where he can make restitution, that would be much more powerful than sending him down a road that we don't want to see him go down. And he said, oh, that sounds like a good plan. And then he said, and would you like a job? And I said, why, thank you. I had not expected that. But I thought, well, that's what happens when you work together and you want to help push someone forward. We get it too. It's like I caught on to that. I didn't take that job. I now wonder what might have happened if I had. But that was a little ways ago. So, that's what happens when we work together. We support each other. E, water. Enthusiasm. Famous Amos said, there is no limit to what you can accomplish with enough enthusiasm. There's no limit. And of course, Charles Fillmore has one of his most famous sayings is, I fairly sizzle with joy and enthusiasm, right? He talks about that when he springs forth with a mighty faith to do the things that ought to be done by him. I say that if I'm feeling kind of really tired. And if you say that 4 or 5 times, it does start getting that energy moving. And when we're talking about, enthusiasm, it's entheos is what it comes from, which means God within, which makes sense, doesn't it? Because enthusiasm is within us, that joy within us, which bubbles forth and springs forward, and then we use it to infuse everything we do. And then, isn't that great? It's like God within is now in all of our actions and in everything that we choose to be about doing. And it makes such a difference. If you work with enthusiasm or work without it, have you ever noticed the difference? It bends time, does it not? Working without enthusiasm, that clock does not move. And it just is not enjoyable at all. So it's like, if we have a choice, bring it in. And I realize that sometimes things are happening in our lives that have really got our attention. But the truth is that if 10% of our life is not going to our preference, there's still that other 90% that is probably just going just fine. Because, well, for one, you're all breathing, your hearts are beating, there's all kinds of good things happening all the time. And so it's just to to remember that and then move into that place. And we say here a lot, we have an effort, I'm so happy and grateful for, and then we put something on it, right? So I'm going to invite you to do it right now. Think of something you are happy and grateful for. And get it down to like 3 words, 1 to 3 words. You got it? Everybody's got something in mind you're happy and grateful for? Then what I want you to do is say the affirmation loudly with me all at once, and then add on your own personal ending, okay? I am happy and grateful for Stephen. Did you all put something in there? Okay, I put my husband in because it's his birthday, and actually I'm grateful for him, so it works good. Now, when we do that, when you're happy and grateful and you're stirring up that enthusiasm, it shifts the energy in the room. And so if you want to shift your energy, or you want to shift somebody else's energy, because we can kind of, yes, we can, it is not my job to change other people, but sometimes I like to just kind of push them along just a little bit. Then it's like bring more enthusiasm to the experience. Bring up that joy, that Godness within, and let it come out. Makes a difference. So then R for water. Respect yourself and others. We say namaste, don't we? Which is like, loosely translated to me is the Godness of me sees, honors, and greets the Godness of you. Yeah. And we see the God, and it's the way to see the Godness in everybody else. And some people are really hiding it right now. I got to tell you. Well, you probably know. And sometimes that can, but my job is to see it even when it's not visible. And sometimes I just go back, I have to sometimes go back to it. We're a young species. We really are. Granted, and I'm not talking about our chronological age, but as a species, sometimes we're young, which means that there are some people on the planet that are in adolescence. And, if you've had adolescent children, you were very patient with them, were you not? Because one thing, you knew they would outgrow it. 2, your job was to just kind of make sure they didn't get too far off the tracks and help them to, because they'll get wiser. I get humble sometimes when I think about, how I thought when I was a teen and in my early 20s, when I knew it all. It's a little embarrassing. And so that's when I have compassion for some of these people. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, honey, you're going to be so embarrassed when your consciousness raises and you see what you were doing, but it's okay. We understood your consciousness was just not really activated that day. We get to be kind to each other. And there was a story about a college student. His name was John. And he was he was a good student, but he looked like your average typical student. So he was wearing, kind of dirty looking jeans. He liked to go barefoot. And he wore a t-shirt, pretty clean. And his hair, he hadn't found his comb for a few days, but it was not a big concern. That was just kind of how he was. Well, he decided one Sunday he was going to go visit the church across from the campus. And this was a sort of a conservative church. And it was well attended, and so he got there a little late, which was sort of his naturalness. And so when they were already upstanding singing the opening song, and it was really quite full. So he's sort of walking down the aisle looking for a seat, and people are singing and looking over and seeing this young man who's barefoot. This is a church, in their mind. They're going, and he's walking, and it's quite an aisle. So by the time he walks all the way to, and he couldn't find any seats. Everybody's standing, so it's hard to see if there was an empty seat anyway. And plus, there weren't many. So he finally got all the way up to the front, and so he decided to do, because the song was just about over. So he sat down, crossed his legs and sat down in front of the pulpit. People were kind of watching this going, nobody has ever done this in the history of this church, and this church has been around here for a really long time. And there was a senior deacon in the back. He was a distinguished gentleman in his late 70s, early 80s. And so he started walking up the aisle. And he had a cane, so you could hear the cane clip-clopping as he's walking up. And the minister was getting ready to give his talk, but there's something happening here, so he thought he'll just wait. And so the deacon is walking up. It's a slow, talk about slow motion, walking up to the front, and people are going to themselves, their minds are going, oh my gosh, he's going to ask the kid to go to the back of the church, or whatever it might be. He walks up, he sets his cane down, And oh so gingerly, he sits down on the floor, smiles at John, and shakes his hand. The energy shifted in the room, and the minister came up and he said, you know, you're never going to remember what I'm going to tell you today, but I think you're never going to forget what you just saw. Because it's in that kind of respect we have for each other, where we set our judgments, our preconceived notions, whatever those usual things that our mind goes to, and we just be with each other, that it's pretty darn incredible. So anyways, we got whatever you believe. A, attitude. T, togetherness. E, enthusiasm, respect. M, melon. Okay. Make a commitment and do something. That's what Amos said, and I like this. Because there's always something we can do. If nothing else, you know, we had during the meditation, you can use your imagination to create whatever you'd like to see. So there's always something. And when things feel hopeless, I said it's never, there's no such thing as hopeless. There's always the ability for us to bring our creative energy into whatever's going on. And then also in this, you know, make commitments and do something, it's like, I have learned recently that follow through is better than procrastination. It has taken me many, many decades to learn this. But I think I am finally getting this. And so it's like to go ahead and be kind to myself and follow through on whatever those intuitive, you know, little ideas that I have that come to me that I didn't follow through. Stephen is still not happy that when I had the idea when we turned to 2000 and we had the millennium bug, they were talking about that in your computers. I thought we should sell little, you know, in bugs in clear stuff and sell millennium bugs. I thought that was going to be brilliant. Didn't bother to do it, and you know, but he still tells me, "Oh, you should have followed through, and that we'd been rich." I said, "Yeah, but I actually like to make something that actually is useful." But aside from that, but the point being is that little intuitive ideas come to us, and what this says is do it. Make your commitments and do something. And so I would say make a commitment for spiritual growth. Maybe that is that you're going to read something inspiring, or you're going to do Tai Chi, or there's all kinds of things. And when I tell people that sometimes, I tell them to do spiritual practices, they go, oh my goodness. I said, no, spiritual practices are fun. They really are. The outcome is joyful. If it's not, I'm going to question what you're doing or something about it. It's like find something that brings you joy. And doing affirmations before you go to bed at night, that should bring you some joy, especially when you wake up in the morning and you see what you've manifested. This is incredible. So, you know, to be looking for the fun, which is the E in melon, every day can be a fun day. Every day. I thought the E should be enlighten up. You like that? I think that's really good. It's like, be light of spirit, but enlighten up. I've heard there's two ways to be happy. You probably know what these are. And that is, one is get everything you want. That makes people happy. And the other is, you know, find joy in what you have. Either one works. It's a good thing. And, you know, today is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. They're telling, you know, this is nothing new, is the idea that we want to seek the fun of the day, joy, happiness, whatever wording you want to use for that, but to look for it and to have expectation of it. And even when things are not going according to what would be your preference, my guess is there's something in that moment, in that day, there's going to be some moments where you can have fun. And just look for it. And then, of course, in melon, L, love is for love. Love is the answer, whatever the question. We say that all the time. Ernest Holmes, one of our wonderful New Thought teachers, said, love is the grandest healing and drawing power on earth. It is the very reason for our being. Love is the magnet of the universe. That's Charles Fillmore. So, you know, when we're thinking about that love, you know, that I have a bumper sticker on the back of my car that says responding with love. I really need to, it's good to have it in the back. That's helpful for people behind me. It's also good to have one that would be on my dashboard, to remind me that, responding with love is the way I want to be in the world all the time. Plus, it's very wise. In 1993, a research team measured the effect of certain emotions on human DNA. And they used research subjects that were really good at shifting their emotional states. So the researchers took the DNA samples from the subjects when they were feeling gratitude and love and appreciation. And they also then shifted and took DNA samples when they were feeling anger, fear, resentment, those types of feelings. And they found that when the subjects felt anger, fear, frustration, stress, their DNA responded by tightening up. It became shorter, and some of the codes actually switched off. But when the subjects then went back and went into a love space, joy, gratitude, appreciation, the shutdown codes in the DNA reversed, the DNA strands relaxed, unwound, and in fact lengthened. And I'm thinking that longer DNA probably is a good thing. I don't think when the codes shut down, that's probably in our best interest. So they took, after they had those results from that experiment, then they took the experiment and they followed up by testing HIV positive patients. And they discovered that the feelings of love, gratitude, and appreciation increased their body's resistance to the virus up to 300,000 times. Yeah, if you got something going on, you want to be in love, don't you? You want to be in that loving space. And it's a choice. It's within us. We've got it. All we have to do is just allow it to express, give it some place to focus, to be, and it works beautifully. Melon, one day at a time. Lao Tzu says what? The journey of 1,000,000 miles begins with a single step. Just be present. And we know this. This is nothing new for us, but it's a good reminder that if we're focusing on the past, it tends to put us into that regret, woulda, coulda, shoulda, what if I'd taken that job, at the newspaper, that kind of thing. You don't need that. And the future is, usually we're not, sometimes we can lead the future with trepidation. And it's a dance. It's not about perfection. It's sort of like, okay, I'm thinking a lot about the past. I want to bring myself up to the present moment and see if I can stay as focused as I can. But if I start getting a little out this way, then I just go back. So we're dancing. It's not about, okay, I've got it. I never think about the future or the past because I delight in both of those at times. But it's about really knowing that the present is that creative point. It's that place where we get to actually experience whatever it is we're experiencing. So, embrace it. And then I think he had to might have been running out of things to think about at that point, but never become a victim. It's good. So, it's a good one. So, and I would say, when I say become a victim in your own mind, that's what it is. Things happen. Being humans, for whatever reason, stuff happens to us. Different times, stuff happens to me, but it doesn't happen to you. Some stuff happens to you and not to me. I don't know why all that works that way, but stuff happens. But it's never allow myself to be consumed by that, to think that that defines who I am. And you notice when good things happen, people don't go, why me? I bet those that they just, what was that, a $1 billion lottery, and I bet the winner went, oh my God, why me? I don't think so. When good things happen, we go, yay. And then, when the other things happen, I might not go, yay, but I don't want to get so consumed, so focused on that. And so what I do is I go back to the idea, the present, it changes, doesn't it? So what is happening right now that is not to my preference is temporary. And I have this is what I like to do, and I've shared it before, is when I have one thing happening that is really not to my preference, I let the universe know that I would like 10 really favorable things to happen in, collaboration. If I got this one thing, I want equivalent of 10 really good things that I really want to have happen. And, it works. I remember when I was talking with a congregant years ago, and she was talking about, she was in a car accident. And, and it was like, okay, that was the one thing you really would not be your preference. But she was in the hospital. She's telling me about all these great things that are happening. Her son, she hadn't seen in a long time, came to visit. People are coming out of the woodwork. She's just having the best time ever. But she said, and I knew that because I knew her spiritual practices. She says, I expected good things to come out of this. And she got them. So it's never move into that victim mentality. Always see myself as the divine human being that I am. So we've got whatever you believe creates your reality. Water. Attitude. Together we do much better. Have your enthusiasm and respect for each other. Make a commitment, remembering that every day should have fun in it. Love's the answer. And at one day at a time, and if we never allow our idea of ourself to diminish, we have this wonderful life that we get to live every day until we don't. And, so it's like every day is so precious and wonderful. So my desire for myself and for you this week is that we have the best week that we have ever had in our entire lives. And there is no reason for that not to be the case. I don't care how fabulous your weeks have been in the past. This can be the best ever. And so it is.